We want to understand the unique discipline experiences of Black girls in the US and the way those experiences shape their identities and their outcomes, and that could be academic or otherwise. So, a few questions we want to be able to ask are: how are Black girls disciplined in the US compared to Black boys and non Black girls? Types of offenses, types of punishments, and rates of punishment. What roles do the biases of those giving the discipline play? What are the outcomes for Black girls? Are there gaps in research? And what are the solutions? So I just want to give a little background knowledge. Black girls are suspended at higher rates than all other non-Black girls. Here in Milwaukee, Black girls make up maybe half of the student population, but they account for about 80% of suspensions given. Many Black girls are enrolled at schools that cannot guarantee a culturally responsive experience. Girls are being pushed out of their academic and social communities and into the juvenile justice system, among other things. I want to start by exploring why they're punished. What are the offenses? So Black girls are most often punished for subjective offenses. And so often in the literature, we see words like disobedience and defiance used to describe those subjective offenses. White girls, interestingly, are more often than Black girls punished for objective offenses. So offenses that require evidence, things like weed and alcohol possession. Why is this significant? Subjectivity leaves room for interpretations based on perception and biases, and we'll get to that later. Similar findings can be found among many other sources. One group of researchers studied a California high school and saw that Black girls were punished for nonviolent offenses such as disobedience and defiance at disproportionate rates. Anima et al. Said that Black girls are punished for disobedience, defiance, and third-degree assault far more often than white girls. Anima et al. And Blake et al. Noted that Black girls are more often punished for offenses that must be judged by an adult, and there's no physical evidence needed. So how are Black girls punished? So often with exclusionary discipline. So examples would be suspension or expulsion. Black girls are 2 times more likely than non-Black girls, according to Blake et al., to be punished with exclusionary discipline. Noltemeyer et al. In an Ohio school district noted that for every 100 Black students, there were 22 recorded suspensions. But for every 100 white students, there were only 8. They didn't specify female versus non-female, but still pertinent. At high poverty schools, Black students saw higher rates of exclusionary discipline. Heinz de Thierry looked at zero tolerance policies and their effect on Black girls. They looked through a critical race feminism lens, which examines the experiences of Black girls through both identity lenses, so femininity and Blackness. They found that ZRTs, or zero tolerance policies, force girls to align with white feminine identity markers, and the result is too often push out. Beyond just the offense, though, it's important to consider what else students may be being punished for. So biases, including implicit biases of teachers, plays a role in the high rate of suspension and expulsion among Black girls. So where can we find implicit biases against Black girls? We can find it in schools, in discipline handbooks, dress codes, language used in office referrals, and narratives from students. Anima et al. Noticed at Denver Public Schools that the employee handbook used to describe misbehaviors only vaguely described them. So for example, third-degree assault was described as knowingly causing harm. That leaves a lot of room for teacher or staff bias to influence decisions on discipline. Did the student premeditate the assault? Was it on purpose, or was it simply driven by strong emotion or impulse? So this is when stereotypes about Black women have a chance to surface. Teachers and staff may call a student defiant when they may unwittingly be referencing a racially conditioned stereotype of the argumentative sapphire or angry Black woman. Bias in disciplining Blackness is important to examine. So black girls don't face exclusionary discipline for behavior alone. Rather, they face potential push-out for a number of uniquely black cultural or physical characteristics unrelated to disruptive classroom behavior. Students like Faith Fenedy have been sent home for non-European hairstyles, and narrative research confirms similar stories, such as that conducted by Essing and Wood. Parents reported their daughters being microaggressed by staff and students, with girls of darker complexion and more coily hair experiencing the most frequent microaggression. They were punished for apparently disruptive hair, so things like beads, extensions, or not feminine enough hair. And these forms of discipline reveal the potential for school staff to hold implicit biases against black girls, their hair, and in turn, black femininity. And we see this with dress codes as well. There are rebuttals, such as, what about the female advantage? Researchers say that the female advantage basically enables girls to receive better grades across several subject areas in school, but this does not necessarily apply to black girls. So Zimmerman found that similarly to Anima et al., that teachers' perceptions of black girls may be resulting in a disadvantage when it comes to school discipline, and that female advantage is more nuanced for black girls than it is for non-black girls. To Zimmerman, this was evident in black girls' higher rates of discipline than even white boys. So that tells us that black girls' experiences are nuanced. What's more, their experiences are nuanced within the African diaspora. Researchers have found that African American girls experience more exclusionary discipline than Caribbean girls. So there's differences even among black girls in America. And that bolsters many researchers' call for more narrative research that centers the discussion on the lived experiences of black girls. Again, outcomes include things like push-out, which means a number of things for black girls, including dropout. Black girls are 3 times more likely to drop out of school, according to Martin and Smith. They're also at risk of entering the juvenile justice system. In fact, suspensions are associated with contact with the juvenile justice system, according to Townsend and Walker. Everything leading up to the push-out leads black girls without the ability to self-determine. So things like certain dress code violations and punishments for them can leave girls thinking that they fit the bill for maybe the Jezebel stereotype of the loose black woman. Words like too loud or aggressive that teachers or staff might use to describe a girl who is assertive and self-advocates. Those girls might view themselves as falling under the sapphire stereotype, or the black girl who's just too loud and too aggressive. So what solutions are we left with? One group of researchers had students participate in an intervention centered on African culture and a specific set of values, then measured for a decrease in aggressive behaviors. The behaviors went down, but is this the approach we should take? My worry is that this will further signal to black girls that their self-advocacy and directness is perceived as aggressive, too loud, and unfit for a lady. Instead, I think counter-narratives about black girls are a more sustainable and helpful approach to ending the unfair discipline experiences that black girls face. There's a sweeping call for research that centers on the lived experiences of black girls. These are needed to dismantle current racist and misogynistic meta-narratives around the identities of black girls. Not only do these narratives affect teacher biases, but they affect the girls' views of themselves. They convince them that they are poor students. So it's up to us as educators to make change within ourselves. 80% of us are white and female, including me. So we must begin acknowledging and examining our biases, doing the anti-racist, anti-misogynistic work of altering our narratives about black girls and women, instead of forcing culturally irrelevant Eurocentric norms onto black girls. Looking forward, there's a lot of room for researchers to begin looking at the race of teachers, rather than only the race of students and the gender of students. I was able to find only one study that examined the relationship between a teacher's race and that teacher's perception of their black female students. It was Martin and Smith that found that white teachers were significantly more likely to write referrals for black girls than were black or African American teachers.